Hey everybody, it's Russ Myers here. Welcome to Three Dog Garage. Firstly, I want to thank the Peterson for giving me and Beth our own exhibit space at the museum, and we hope you get a chance to take a look at what's on display. And now it's an honor to share with you our collection. We named it after our three Bouviers, George, Gracie, and Dauber. As you can see, we're not a museum. We don't try to be a museum. We try to work very hard to make it open to people, make it a garage. We work on our own race cars. We've got a great team here of about 8 men and women that just are absolutely amazing. We do a lot of prep work, full restorations, and we're just going to spend some time today and show you around. This is a Zakspeed Mustang, one of two in existence. The other one is on that table right there being restored. Had the Miller livery on it, Miller beer livery on it. And I find this car fascinating because it was designed to compete with the 935 Porsches in IMSA. And what Ford did, they started out with a Fox body. About the only thing left of it's the roof. It's got a aluminum tube frame, just like a 935, front engine. It's got a 4-cylinder Ford dual overhead cam motor in it, about 1.8 liters. And if you look in the engine bay, you can see a nightmare's worth of plumbing in there. And that's all German engineering and how they got 750 horsepower out of that little 4-cylinder motor. If you stare in there, you can see that the turbocharger is just about the same size as the engine block, which just absolutely cracks me up. But when you look in there and you see in 1981, 45 years ago, the type of creativity and the engineering went on to make horsepower and speed, I find it absolutely fascinating. We're just looking at the Miller Zakspeed Mustang. This is the Ford Motorcraft Mustang from 1982. Again, full aluminum frame, basically the same car as the 81, just a new body style for Ford and new livery. But to me, it's fascinating the work that our artisans turn out. There's probably to date 3,000 man hours in this. By the time this is completed, it'll probably be 4,500 man hours to preserve a piece of history. And really at Three Dog Garage, that's what we do. We preserve history and we drive history. So this car right here is a C-Type Jaguar in 1951. You're probably saying, what is a Jaguar doing in a Ford hot rod and race car collection? Well, this is a very special Jag. It was a car that was designed to compete at Le Mans, which it did successfully in 51 and 53 at one Le Mans. This particular car has always been in the United States, and I'm very excited because I'm going to be driving it in Emilia in 2026. Really looking forward to it. It's been a dream of mine for quite some time. So Beth and I are getting really, really excited about going to Italy next year and putting 1,000 miles on this girl. This is a special little section of Three Dog Garage dedicated to my father, Alan Myers. Every car in here was in my father's collection. Some of them are the same way they were 45 years ago when my dad passed. Some of them have been re-restored, but every car in here was a childhood memory for me, and I just couldn't bear to part with them. This particular Model T Ford, this 1919 Model T Ford, is particularly important to my life. At 3 years old, I was in the garage with my dad, handing him wrenches and screwdrivers and whatever else he was doing to restore this car. We didn't have a lot of money back then, but he was always fascinated with history. And in 1952, he restored this Model T, joined the AACA and the local Delaware Valley region, and it was a big part of our social life growing up. There was a lot of picnics, car tours, car shows, 4th of July parades, Memorial Day parades. All those things were part of my childhood, growing up, spending time with my dad. My dad worked 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, and the only time I really got to see him a whole lot was out in the garage. And that was how we bonded and remained close our whole lives through cars. You know, it's interesting growing up as a teenager. I think we all remember those years. My dad and I didn't agree on much, but we could always agree on cars. We could always sit down, go to a car show together, have a great time, work on cars together, and it kept us close our whole lives. So this room is very, very special to me. This is kind of a fun old pickup. This is actually a replica of a car that Clint Eastwood drove in one of his movies. Eric Clapton fell in love with the movie and the pickup and commissioned Roy Brizio to make him a replica. This was in Eric's collection. I was lucky enough to buy it through Roy, and it's been a Three Dog ever since. It was also important enough to Eric Clapton that he used it as one of his posters for one of his tours in 2015. Just a great little truck, a lot of fun to drive. So we talk a lot about we drive our cars here. We also race our cars here. So any car that you're going to see, we keep a spare motor for each and every Ford configuration of race car we have. Because if you're traveling for 1,000 miles or 2,000 miles or 3,000 miles to go to a race, you want to make sure you can race. We're now in one of my favorite rooms, first floor of the old building in what we call Dog One. I fell in love with this building because of the old brick and the old windows, the beams. It was an old furniture factory. Fell in love with it and thought someday this will make a great place for cars. About 10 years later, all of a sudden cars appeared. My father and my grandfather sold 6 dairy cows and bought a 1939 Ford dump truck, and that's how we started our construction business. So we've always been a Ford family. I joke that I can't afford Ferraris, I'm a Ford guy, and we're sticking with it. This car right here, I think is a fascinating story. It's called the Pete Henderson Roadster. And besides being just a beautiful, classic, simple hot rod, the story behind this car to me is fascinating. This is the car that first beat a horse. And there's a very famous horse out of Santa Anita that would challenge anybody to a quarter-mile race. It never lost until Pete Henderson showed up in this 32 Ford hot rod. So to me, and a lot of historians, they say this is the first drag race, the first drag race car. We could argue that one way or another, but to me, it's still just a wonderful story. This is a very special car to Beth and I. This car was built by Roy Brizio and his wonderful team. It was about a 3-year build. There's a ton of modifications on it. It started out as a Chip Foose design 2-door Phaeton, and after about 150 modifications to frame, body, and everything else, we ended up with this absolutely gorgeous hot rod. Beth had a lot of influence over this. She loved the flames. If you know my wife, Beth, she's a firecracker. We had fireworks at our wedding. And to me, when I look at this car, I see Beth's influence all over it. The stance, the flames, everything about it to me says Beth. And I'm just so proud of her. She's the first woman to ever have won the Amber Award at Pomona. So nice job, Beth. We're really proud of you here at Three Dog. This is the Ricky Nelson Roadster. As you can see, it's very different. It's a channeled roadster, especially very different for California, but an amazing car. It was originally called the La Masa Roadster. It was built by La Masa, but its real fame and fortune happened when it was in episodes of Ozzie and Harriet, with Ricky Nelson and his brother David driving it. So it's known today as the Ricky Nelson Roadster. We saw Don Orozco, who was absolutely legendary in early hot rodding. I really believe that Bruce Meyer and Don Orozco were the forefathers of restoring old hot rods and understanding the history involved in preserving them. But this particular car was at an auction, and I was actually thinking about buying my first Ferrari, and my wife Beth fell in love with this car. I think it's because she probably always had a crush on Ricky Nelson, which I know a lot of women do. At any rate, between the bright green and the white and the Ricky Nelson legend, she persuaded me to bid on this car, and it's been in our collection now for about 15 years. It's one of the most popular cars in Three Dog Garage. When people come here, we always ask them before they leave to tell us what their favorite car was or their favorite thing was, because we have a lot of things going here, as you can see. It's kind of interesting. Women will usually pick this car. This is a very popular car. I think it's a very beautiful car, and it was really the first historic hot rod that came into the collection. This is what I call my favorite floor in Three Dog Garage, and it's my favorite for two reasons. One, I'm a huge 36 Ford. It's my favorite year of Fords ever, for a lot of reasons. We'll get into that. The other thing on this floor that absolutely is, I find fascinating and wonderful, is the art on this floor, which is all original Tom Fritz art, who's by far my favorite car artist in the whole world. We'll start with the 36 Fords. And I'm standing between two cars that really kind of set my course in the car hobby. I showed you my dad's Model T. He was an antique car guy, a purist. I fell in love with hot rods, mostly because our next door neighbor had a body shop and had a chopped 32 Ford sedan that I just absolutely thought was the coolest thing in the world. My father thought it was blasphemy. The story with these two cars is I bought this car to my right, 36 Ford 3-window coupe. I bought the coupe body, 8 fenders, and a bunch of sheet metal when I was 9 years old for $25. I brought it home and said, Dad, I'm going to make this into a hot rod. I'm going to chop it. It's going to be really something. He said, no son of mine is going to chop a perfectly good 36 Ford. With that, I put it up in my grandfather's barn and purchased this car when I was 11, which was a running 36 Ford Roadster. Brought it home, snuck a full house flathead Mercury motor in it, painted it with my mother's vacuum cleaner and a J.C. Whitney attachment, painted it myself in hard endorsed maroon, which was a Corvette color, and drove it to high school. When I was in college, I was out on a date one night, got hit by a drunk driver, totaled the car. My date and I were very lucky. This car and this car both sat in my grandfather's barn for years. In the early 2000s, I was cleaning that barn out because we were converting it into offices. And these two old wrecks were up there. I decided to take this back to the car that I would have loved to driven in high school if I had the money. And I decided to take First Love, we call her, because it was my first car, and turn it into a show car and try to win the Riddler Award, which is, to a lot of people, one of the highest and most prestigious award you can win with a custom car. Troy Trepanier and his team built this car. We won the Riddler Award in 2007. At the time, it was considered the highest level ever achieved for a car of its type. I still find it absolutely phenomenal and amazing. Troy and his team just absolutely knocked it out of the park. And to this day, Troy's a very good friend of mine. He just finished a Roadster for me that won the Amber Award this year. But the thing I love about Troy Trepanier and Roy Brizio and their teams is no matter how good the last car was they built for you, they're always trying to make the next car that much better. We talked about my favorite artist, Tom Fritz. I find his work absolutely phenomenal. It doesn't matter to me whether he's painting a dragster, a road scene, an airplane, a lake car, a dry lake car, an old racer. Everything he does to me is a unique combination of speed and light. I just find his work fascinating. Sometimes I'll be having a bad day. I'll just come up here and sit on a bench for a half an hour. I call it my kind of meditation. This is our research library. We have full documentation on every car. We research every car. As a matter of fact, we're writing and going to be publishing a book on hot rods pretty soon. But to me, the whole purpose of Three Dog Garage is a preservation of history. It's a preservation of stories. It's a preservation of people's lives and how they're influenced by the automobile. We have a full-time research librarian on staff that spends all his time researching our cars and other future cars. I mentioned that Three Dog Garage is open to the public. There's no fees involved. We encourage anybody with an interest in cars or history to come. We really encourage people to bring their children or grandchildren. And we want to make sure while they're here, they have as much fun as the adults. So this and a lot of other things we do here is just for the kids. We're now on the third floor of Three Dog One, and this is my favorite room architecturally. When I first looked at this building, when it was for sale, it was derelict. The roof was leaking. It didn't look anything like it does today. But I actually walked to the third floor and fell in love with the architecture and the structure of the building, the old windows, the steel, the arch roof. Just everything about this floor just kind of blew my mind and took me back to 1900 when it was a furniture factory. I signed an agreement of sale on this floor that day. Today it's full of just some wonderful and amazing early hot rods. Every car up here has been a cover car, a show winner, a record setter of some sort. Just a pure joy to come up here and walk around. We'll start here with a car that I find very interesting. This was Andy Brizzio's personal hot rod. Andy built this. Art Himsel painted it, probably one of the most prolific and famous and most talented painters of all time. And Andy drove this car all over the country till he sold it to John Bonham, the drummer for Led Zeppelin. And this was actually John Bonham's personal hot rod and was in the film on Led Zeppelin. So it's kind of fun to have it here. Brings me back to Roy and Andy and how important they've been to the hobby. I just find the artwork on it absolutely fascinating. When I was a kid growing up, I was allowed to watch one TV show a week. And the show I picked was 77 Sunset Strip. Every Friday night, I was glued to the TV for that show. For one reason and one reason only, this car. It was in the beginning of every 77 Sunset Strip TV show. Cookie Burns would come around, park it, jump out of it, and the show would start. For me, the first 60 seconds of the show were all that mattered. I got to see this car every Friday night. I never got this car out of my mind. It absolutely, between this and my next door neighbor and his hot rod, had me sold that hot rods were the way to go. This car ended up unrecognizable in a Mecum auction. I bid on the car. I was lucky enough or unlucky enough to end up with it, depending on how you look at it. And I went to my buddy Roy Brizzio and said, Roy, we got to take this back to exactly the way it was when it appeared on the show. That's what we've done with the car. To me, the quintessential hot rod. I guess what's fascinating to me about this car, beyond how it changed my life, is the fact that it was built by a 20-year-old young man in Los Angeles. No training, wasn't built in a professional hot rod shop, built by a guy by the name of Norm Grabowski, who was extremely creative. Some people thought he might have been a little out of his mind. I'm not sure about that, but the end product here is just, I think, absolutely the most wonderful thing I've ever seen on Ford tires. This is a wonderful classic East Coast hot rod. These cars were channeled, sectioned low compared to the West Coast cars. A lot of people thought they did this for the styling, which I'm sure they did. But what most people don't realize is all the East Coast cars, the floors were rusted out of them. So the easiest way to get them on the road was to slam the body down over the frame and ditch an aluminum or plywood or metal floor in it and have a low boy hot rod. I love channel cars. I think they have a special look. This car was local. It was built 50 miles from here, built by a World War II vet that opened a body shop, built this car at night, won all kinds of shows up and down the East Coast. It's known as Goldenrod. All original paint, original upholstery, just the way it was. I love the story about this car. This car was built by Valley Customs. It had all the top-notch people working on it. The car was sold to a dentist in the Midwest, Doc Wenzel. He bought the car, flew, he and his bride from Kansas to Southern California, got in the car, and they drove it to the Bonneville Salt Flats, and that was their honeymoon. The remarkable thing to me is they stayed married. But I just want to end with this hamburger and shake. We talked about how a lot of the ladies that come here really enjoy the Ricky Nelson Roadster. Their second favorite thing is always the hamburger and neon. I think it's fascinating. It came off a tall 50-foot sign that was along the interstate in Topeka, Kansas. I think it just fits great in this room and in this building. So thank you for spending time with me today at Three Dog Garage. We now call it Dog One because we have another garage that we'll be showing you in another video. What we try to do here is preserve history. We also want everybody to leave with a smile on their face. So hopefully you've got a smile on your face. Thank you again so much.